What's up, my peeps out there in the digital space? This is yours truly, Cedric Jenkins, founder and creator of Your Money Matters. You know, I always say your money matters because of the fact you get up each and every day to earn it. You have a God given right to keep it. So it was always my purpose, my passion, and my intent to come out here and share some content with you all so that you can keep more of your money. But we ain't going to talk about chasing the bag, right? And I'm going to get into that in my video. But I want to talk about what's going on out here in the media land about Kyrie Irving and Kanye West. Now, I do want to give a disclaimer. This is probably going to be a little long video. I started to do a live video, but then based on what I'm going to be talking about, the content of the video, um, is probably going to get flagged or what have you. So if that were the case, I have my own recorded video. So this is going to be a pre-recorded video you're going to be watching. It's not going to be live. So I wanted to strategically do a pre-recorded video just in case the social media platforms that I'm going to put this on will flag it. This way I have my own copy of it. All right. So let's get into it. I want to have an adult conversation about this whole situation and kind of air out a few things. Basically, it's all my own personal opinion about this whole situation, but I just wanted to share it with you all. All right. So let's have this discussion. And oh, yeah, by the way, happy Veterans Day to all the veterans that are out there. Go out there and get your free meal, spend time with your family, things of that nature. All right. Let's get into it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm back. Looks like we are live. So let's have a reasonable conversation about what's going on with these two celebrities. One of them is a basketball player, the other one is a musical artist. All right. Um, One thing about being a celebrity, um, that comes with a lot of fame and fortune with that. There's also comes some great responsibilities behind it as well. But unfortunately, when you're in the limelight and somebody's cutting you a check, there are certain things that you can say or do before they cut off your check. So if you've been living under the rock, and I'm quite sure none of y'all have been living under the rock, and I'm quite sure you're well aware because they've been talking about this in media until people are nauseated about it, and that is, well, it started off with Kanye West of what he did, um, regarding um, some things that he said that was anti-Semitic, Semitic, and we're going to get into that definition of that here shortly. And then later on, Kyrie Irving. Um, Now he's in the public eye for something that he said that they said that was anti-Semitic. All right, but let's break the definition down of what anti-Semitic is. All right, let's start with the first part of the word, which is anti, which means you opposed or against something. All right. Anti means you are against or oppose of something. Semitic. Okay. Here's the definition of Semitic, and I'm gonna read it to you because I don't want to mess it up. Okay. So let me find. Here we go. Definition of Semitic: a branch or subfamily of the Afro Asiatic family of languages that include Arabic, Hebrew, and I'm going to chop this word up, Aramaic. Yeah, I chopped it up. Amharic, Akkadian, and Phoenician. I know I chopped up some of those words, but you can go look those languages up yourself. All right. But basically, Semitic is nothing more than a set of folks that comes from an Afro-Asiatic family. These Afro-Asiatic family comes from what we call the 12 tribes of Israel. All right. Now, I'm not going to get into this whole thing about what Kyrie and Ye said publicly. Y'all know, y'all heard it. Um, but what they both are basically saying is there were some things that was hitting purposely. And sometimes, or most of the times, when things are hidden purposely or hidden, then the truth does not come out. And so what they're saying is there's some truth to some things that we need to know about so that we can get some clarity and an understanding, which will connect the dots as far as the behavior to a certain race of people, right? Kyrie Irving, right now, he's the hottest thing right now. They don't kind of shifted that heat from Kanye to Kyrie. And basically, Kyrie on his Twitter, he shared without any caption, he shared a link to a movie that he recommended called uh, From Hebrew to Negro. Right? It's a movie that's being syndicated on Amazon Prime. All right. Also, there, and it's a three-part movie from my understanding. There are some publications out there on it, and when he recommended that, then that's where the um, the judgment came toward him, and basically saying that he was promoting some anti-Semitic material uh, from that movie. Okay, because he shared that movie. Now, listen, y'all. We all share and recommend movies all day long. Hey, Black Panther. I went and saw it. Go see it. Right? We do it all the time. Okay. But that's not the issue here. Because we do this. We recommend stuff all the time. But that's not the issue. The issue is this. You have an individual who have a level of influence, right? Who say, go check out this movie. Or he post a link with the undertone of go check it out, right? He ain't put no caption in it. But because he just shared a link, he got labeled as anti-Semitic, right? Now, people who saw it all jumped on the bandwagon, or some of them jumped on the bandwagon. Yeah, he's promoting hate, things of that nature. Now, the people who have been saying that, I can bet you by the chip that they didn't even look or watch the movie. Now, I'm hearing all this uproar about it, and I said to myself, let me go check out the movie. See, sensible people, people with intellect would say, well, instead of me passing judgment on someone, which we should never do, let me go see what this movie is all about before I open my mouth with ignorance. So what I did, I went on Amazon Prime and I ordered or rent the movie. And I watched it. As a matter of fact, I watched it twice. I watched it by myself and then I watched it with my family. Okay. And in the movie, it's a documentary. All right. And I'm not going to go into whole details of it, but the documentary was basically a history story of the origins of families that came from the 12 lost tribes. Okay. And in that education of it, you were able to connect the dots as far as who were your ancestry bloodline that trace back to those 12 tribes, right? So it's very educational. But that kind of education is not being taught and will never be taught on purpose in the school system. There's a reason behind that. Okay. But now when you go and check that out and do some other research to connect the dots, now all the stuff that's been going on for centuries as far as um, behavior to um, a certain demographic of folks, Negroes. Now you get to understand why this is happening, and I'm here to tell you this goes way beyond our pay grade. Right? There's levels to this. As a matter of fact, this is nothing more than a spiritual battle between God and the devil himself. When you all peel it all back, it's nothing more than a spiritual battle between God and devil. God cast out the devil because he was too conceited, um, and he wanted to be the king over the kingdom. But that's why the devil was a fallen angel, right? And because he got casted out, he was angry because God didn't make him king over the kingdom. So in his mind, he said he's going to get back at God's children. And so all his whole plan was to spoil and eradicate God's children. That's why that serpent that showed up in that forbidden garden when Adam and Eve was there, that serpent showed up and said, "Go bite that apple." And the apple was bitten. And then from there, the devil's plan got started. And his whole thing was because to see the devil understand sowing and reaping. And at that time, he was sowing a bitter seed to Eve, both Adam and Eve, by biting that apple. And when they did, they committed a great sin in the eyes of God, right? But see, God already knew that the devil was going to do something like that. So he said, well, I'm going to have to create an image of me on this earth to save my people, my chosen people. All right. And so after Adam, after that, the whole story. But I'm not trying to get into that whole story, right? Do the research yourself. But let me get back to Kyrie and Ye or Kanye. All right. So now, these were individuals who understand and got the clarity, right? So now they're sounding an alarm at the gate to others to say, know your past, understand your past, so you can have a brighter future. But if you never understand your past or never have discovery of your past, how can you have a future? So now they sounded the alarm. But see, when you sound the alarm to truth, then the devil sends his soldiers out, and the soldiers start doing work, and then all of a sudden, here come labels. And this been going on since the 1600s. That playbook as far as labeling to cancel or to hush folks. Labels such as anti-Semitic, terrorists, communists. There's a few others. All right. There's a few others. And once you become an outspoken person about the truth of the matter, then now you get labeled. And once they label you, now they go through the process of canceling you. Back in the old the slave trade days, if you had an outspoken slave, what they would do is they take the most biggest slave out there, publicly tie him to a post, and emasculate him in front of everybody. What that does mentally to everybody who's viewing it is that they're saying, we done took your biggest and greatest and we punished him. We dare you to go against us. And so now that mentally has an effect on how you look at that, right? So now you have the men saying, well, he took our greatest, and this is what they did to our greatest. We had no choice but to submit. The women, same thing. Well, we don't have our men to protect us. We too gonna have to submit. And mentally, what do? We submit. But that's the emasculation that took place back in the slave trade days. Now, fast forward, slave trades are abolished, so called. So now they use other means to emasculate you. And right now, since we live in a digital world, you get emasculated socially. So now, Kanye West, they have the label of anti-Semitic, and now they're being dragged through the mud socially. And they're going to pour on the heat until they make them apologize. But see, this is where we have to stand on principle. See, for those who are in this industry, such as the music industry or the movie industry, is more than going after the bag. We talked about going after the bag earlier, but it's more to it than going after the bag. Sometimes, all the time, so I would say you should be standing on principle. We can't be weak if we plan on standing on principle. See, principle allow you to keep your integrity. Principle allow you to be more responsible. Once you lose your integrity, then you're going to become shameful to everybody that you're connected to. You're going to feel shameful. And you're going to feel as though you can't get out of that. But just know we all make mistakes. We were all born in sin. And our sins can be and will be forgiven if we confessed our sins to the Most High. So be careful about what you're getting into. Fame and fortune, there's a price you have to pay for that. You have to sacrifice something. I mentioned before, each and every day is a spiritual warfare. The devil's after your soul, and corporate America is after your likeness. Corporate America is nothing more than people that have been dispatched by the devil to come after your likeness. Okay. And so when you are an artist or a actor or actress, and you are signing with a major company. You have to sign a contract. And see, when you sign a contract is nothing more than some instructions or an agreement by both parties with an expectation of end results. Okay. And so when these contracts are signed, immediately you there's some ownership that takes place. And that ownership is of your likeness. Okay. And basically, the contract says, per the contract, there's policies and procedures that there are some things you can and cannot do. There are some things you can and cannot say. Okay. So they basically have ownership of you. What's the definition of ownership? Anything that is owned by a person or an entity. There are two types of ownership. There's real property, which deals with real estate, real property, if you will, like that's land, real estate, or the improvement of those two things. And then you got personal property. Sometimes that's considered as personality, right? So when you sign your name on a contract, ownership takes place, not a partnership. They'll give you the perception that it's partnership, but what really takes place is ownership. And that company or the CEO of that company assumes ownership of your likeness. And as long as they have ownership of your likeness, you have to do what they tell you to do, or you don't get paid. You don't get paid. It's just that simple. So, what are some characteristics of some ownerships? Right to possess, right to use and enjoy, right to consume or destroy or alienate, perpetual rights, perpetual rights. And lastly, ownership has residual status. Ownership has residual status. You can tie that into perpetual rights. And that's what's happening with, namely, these artists that are just recently passing perpetual rights to their likeness. I think that's because they sign a name on a dotted line. That's almost a form of slavery. It's almost a form of slavery. What is the definition of slavery? I want to get that definition for you. Hmm. So this definition says a condition compared to that of a slave in respect of exhausting labor or restricted freedom. So why are we thinking we going after the bag by signing these contracts? You want the instant fame and fortune. You become a slave, right? Think about what's happening now in the modern day world. When we sign our name on a dotted line, when we go for employment, there's certain things that we can say and cannot say. There's certain things that we can and cannot do. Out here in the music industry or the Hollywood, They sign a contract. Ownership takes place and being transferred. Slaves back then, like it is now, are considered assets because they have ownership. Back then, they can keep slave for free trade, free labor, or they can sell slaves for profit. That still holds truth to today. Still holds truth to today, to a form, to a certain degree. The only way that you can be free is not have anyone to own your likeness, to have your own. You become the owner. It's been said biblically that we have the power to gain wealth, but we can't gain wealth if we are enslaved, if we don't have individual freedom. And see, while they are labeling Kanye and Kyrie, what they actually doing is stealing their First Amendment rights, freedom of speech. Now you have these same people who talked about or go against what Kyrie and Kanye are doing are the same ones who beat their chests about the First Amendment, freedom of speech. I have the right to say what I want to say. It's my First Amendment rights. Is the First Amendment rights for everybody? Or is it for a certain demographic of people? No one is not talking about in terms of Kyrie posting that link of that movie. No one, I have not seen a burp of a conversation about the owner of Amazon, who is the host provider for this showing, and had not said anything about or put any kind of place of accountability or responsibility on the owner of Amazon. That movie's on his site. Meanwhile, he's making all sorts of money from it because the people from the lost 12 tribes has gotten whiff of it, and now they viewing it because we're in a season of awakening. I too was curious to see this documentary, like others. I'm not sure how much longer it's going to be up there. Here's what media is going to do quietly. You ain't going to hear no word about the accountability and responsibility on Amazon. But what's going to happen behind closed doors is you're going to see that content be removed. Anything regarding to Hebrews to Negro. Or did I say that right? Is it Negro to Hebrews? Is one, I can't remember. It's one of them. It's going to be taken down at some point. So who knows how long it's going to be out there. I tell you what happened. If anyone saw The Bankers, Samuel Jackson was in it, and I forget the guy who played Hawk in the Avengers. I forget that guy's name. When that movie first came out, it was on Apple TV. I watched it on Apple TV when it first came out. And then I've recommended that movie to some close relatives of mine. Now, The Banker is it's a movie about two black men who wanted to get in real estate. Trying to remember the story. Wanted to get in real estate, but didn't have the capital, so they wanted to go. They went to banks to try to get a loan. They couldn't get a loan, but then they figured out a way to infiltrate the system to where the system fronted them capital to get into real estate to help black families in terms of getting into home ownership. So they took the playbook, they provided a playbook to show how these two black men infiltrated the system, learned it, infiltrated it, learned it, and start receiving capital to take that money and go aid the black families to help them become homeowners. Later on, um, it was revealed what they were doing. So they got emasculated. They had to show up in court. FBI showed up. FDIC showed up at their bank, the place of work. FBI showed up at their place of dwelling, and they went to jail and had to show up in court. But after it was all said and done, after they showed up in court, um, they exposed the lie. Okay, they exposed the lie, and this where I forgot the banking laws that developed from this movie, but it was all about redlining. But I said all of that to say this: it came apparent to the powers to be that said, "Wow, this is the playbook that a certain demographic of folks can learn to get into this real estate business and flourish." So next thing you know it, when I told some folks to go check it out on Apple TV, unbeknownst to me, it was no longer showing on Apple TV. I went out there and looked. It's like, it's not out. No, excuse me. It was on Netflix. I'm sorry. It was shown on Netflix first. Then Netflix took it down. Now it's showing on Apple TV. So you had to have an Apple TV subscription to go see it. And I don't know how much longer it's going to be out there. But see, it exposed the lie, but also provided a playbook of how you overcome the lie. Just like this documentary is doing the same thing, but mostly it's giving you history, and the history itself, the education from the history itself, will give you or expose the lie that's been told since 1600. The lie will catch a ride anywhere, but at some point, it's going to have to die. Truth will get to it at some point. And we're in the season where lies are being exposed. But caution, as more lies is being exposed, you have to know the devil is going to be 3x, 4x, and 5x on attack to keep that lie from being exposed. So you're gonna probably gonna see some more horrible things that's gonna happen. You're gonna see some more folks who's gonna get more clarity about what's going on, and they're gonna start telling it. But we know that when the truth come out, some people get missing. So this is where we had to put on the full armor of protection here because of the fact we know that when we tell the truth, when we expose the lie, um, we're going to be on attack. Let's not miss the message by paying too much attention to the messenger. And I said that to say because of the fact we're looking at Kanye West when he came out and mentioned this stuff. We all said that, man, you can't believe him because he's crazy in the mind. I must admit, I would say that there were some things that he has said and done that was questionable in my mind. But then on the other hand, some of the things I heard him say and do made perfect sense to me. But see, the thing about it is he got labeled as a crazy individual. But how could he be mentally sound when he's dealing with what he has been dealing with? Baby mama drama, kids, and all that good stuff. Not being getting the value worth through his so-called partnerships with these organizations, not paying them, but he's bringing them millions, billions of dollars to these companies, but he's getting paid pennies. And I say pennies, but millions. He's getting paid millions of dollars, but the company is making 2, 10, 12, 20x more than he has. He's making. But then because they have ownership of him, they they get to tell him what to what to do, what not to do, what to say, and what not to say. I think and I never consider him a genius person, but I think in this season that he was genius for getting out of those contracts. He was enslaved, and he had to get out of those contracts. Now he's free. Now he can go do what he want to do, help the black community. I was told from one of my frat brothers that he was supposed to be building a community with resources, financial resources, real estate resources. Basically, he's trying to birth another Black Wall Street to a degree. Now he can go do it. He don't have any of those companies that he's partnered up with looking over his shoulder. He has freedom to go do that, but he couldn't do that while he was on contract. Eventually, they was going to shut that down. Eventually, they was going to shut that down. Now I saw in the news that Adidas will continue to sell those whatever those shoes that Kanye created. But see, remember, when you sign a contract, the first thing you give up is your likeness, your creativity. They have ownership of it. Now you see Adidas continue to make money off of Kanye West, even after they canceled his contract. Yeah, we ain't gonna pay you no more, but we still got your likeness, and we still can make money off your likeness. So right now, here's what we as a collective of people need to do. We need to see it for what it is and not be afraid to stand on purpose and principle. It's more to it than going out here trying to go after the bag. It's more to it than going out here for fame and fortune, because those things, you're going to have to give up something. You're going to have to sacrifice something for that. The question is it worth it? Is it worth it? Is it worth selling your soul to a tangible piece of paper with a face on it? Is it worth it? Ask yourself, is it worth all the money in the world to go sell your soul to where it keeps you out of the kingdom? I get it. We live in America. We live in this world. We need money. We have an economic system that we need to dwell in. Yes, I understand we need money, but we shouldn't have the love of money either. Now you're putting money before God. I seen too many posts socially that say if you had a choice between having 10 minutes with God and $1 trillion. And it baffles me how we entertain that question. And the comments from that question is crazy. People will take money over 10 minutes with God. Give me 10 minutes with God. I don't need the money. I got the source. I got the plug. The 10 minutes I done had with God, that's the plug. That's the plug for me. That's my financial plug. But I seen too many folks in the comment that say, I'm for the money. I'll see God later. How you know you're gonna see God later? You just assume you're gonna see God later. We don't know if we're gonna see God for certain. If we hadn't been obedient to God's word, how do we think that we're gonna see God? But that's that arrogance that we have. No humility as the children of God. None whatsoever. Ladies and gentlemen, and I'm gonna say kings and queens, we're in a season of awakening. And once we get awakening, we get clarity of who we are as a people. We get to know, we get clarity of our culture, our identity, our way of life. And once we understand all those things, rejuvenation can take place. But rejuvenation will never take place unless we have some humility about who we are and try to learn who we are. We lost greatly as a race. We lost greatly. We lost our heritage, our culture, our language, our identity, most importantly, and soon to be our soul. And that was the spiritual plan of the devil. When he got casted out, his whole goal was to destroy God's people. So I close by saying, learn your past, know your past, so you won't forget your past. And once you know your past, you can have a brighter future. But it starts with humility, understanding, clarity. All right. This is yours truly, Cedric Jenkins, founder and creator of Your Money Matters. Your Money Matters because of the fact you get up each and every day to earn it. You have the spiritual, God given right to keep it, sow it, and multiply it. Whenever there's ignorance, get wisdom. While you're getting wisdom, have humility. A fool could never get wisdom. Don't be that fool, or else you'll be in the dark. All right? We'll holler at y'all later. Y'all be blessed. Peace.